Hi guys, we are headed into week 4 of distance learning, so me and Layla just wanted to come and say hello and kind of just talk to you guys about how the rest of the year is going to work. We've now completed all of our 8th grade standards. We are headed into the 9th grade stuff, so I'm really proud of you guys. You guys have worked so hard this year learning all of that 8th grade stuff while interweaving the 9th grade stuff in there with it. So that's amazing, and you should feel very proud of yourself. Now we're going to kind of wrap things up for this school year we're actually going to be hopping around the textbook, hitting the things that we've missed, especially because we missed like 3 weeks of instructional time when we went into our lockdown. So we are going to kind of be hopping around. I'm going to be picking things that I think are important, and it's going to seem a little bit random, but yeah, that's kind of just what we're going to have to do for this year. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is called rational exponents. That is what we're learning about this week and probably next week too. It's something that when kids come back to visit me each year who are in Math 2, which is where you'll be next year, they tell me that this is what they struggle with so much. They actually start Math 2 with a unit very similar to this, almost identical. So if you guys can tune me in for this unit in the next couple weeks, I think it's really going to help you as a 9th grader. If you have chosen not to do any work up until this point, this is the part where I beg and plead, please tune me in. Please try to learn something, because this is the stuff that's truly going to help you next year, okay? I'm not just saying that, I mean it. You will see this stuff again in the beginning of your freshman year. So anyways, this week's going to be tough. We're getting into that stuff that is definitely more difficult than the stuff you've learned this year. So you're going to have to really push yourself. Use me. I am just sitting here with Layla every day, waiting to answer questions. So use that, okay? Take advantage of it, of Remind and your access to be able to chat with me. And good luck to you guys. This video is going to be just about exponent law review, because it's been a very long time since we've done exponent laws, and it's super important for rational exponents. So today will be review, and then next video starts the really tough stuff. Yeah, I think that's it. I always feel like I have more to say, and then I just don't. So me and Layla, we wish you the best. Oh, she doesn't want to wave. Sorry, guys. And I miss you guys so much. I seriously miss your faces more and more every single day. And I hope that we get some sort of closure for this school year where we get to say bye to each other after all of this is over. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Alrighty, guys. It's time for dun 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 exponent law review. I know you guys are cringing at home. We're going to talk about exponent laws. We learned it quite a while ago, but the stuff that you're going to be learning about this week is largely related to exponent laws, so I need you guys to remember them. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have a day where we just review all of the laws. Nothing too crazy. This video is going to be pretty short because we're just going to do really simple ones so that you guys have those foundational skills fresh in your brains, okay? The first one we're going to talk about is the product rule. If you want to grab a piece of paper and just try to stay a step ahead of me, that's probably a good idea, like I always say. So product rule is when you are multiplying, hence the name product. I'm just going to throw out examples and do them and have you guys hopefully doing them with me at home. So the first one is x cubed times x to the 8th power. Remember that if your base is the same and the base is that number on the bottom, then with the product rule, when you multiply, you add your exponents together. So 3 plus 8 is 11. This one's going to be the rule that probably comes in handy the most this week. So this is one that I really want you guys to stick in your brains. I've got 2 to the 4th power times 2 to the 2nd power. And I know that your brain's probably telling you just multiply 2 by itself 4 times and then 2 by itself 2 times, but this is actually one of the problems that you guys are going to be getting a lot of, where you have the base being a number, and that's not something you're probably really familiar with. So I just wanted to remind you that when you have a problem like this, you keep the base, so the base does not change, it stays 2. And what this is saying is I had 4 2's, and then I had 2 more 2's, so altogether now I have 6 2's. Keep the base, add the exponent. We'll do one more that's like a little bit more intense. That has to do with product rule. I've got x squared y and x cubed y to the 4th. This week won't really focus too much on problems like this. We already spent a whole unit on problems like that, but it's just good practice, good review. So since this is a multiplication problem, I know that I'm going to keep my base, add my exponents. My exponents that I see on the base x, I've got a 2 and a 3, which makes 5. And then the exponents on the y, I've got a 1, even though it's not written, there's a 1 there, and a 4, which also makes 5. So that would be the answer. That is product rule. That's one that's going to be really important this week. And make sure that when you're practicing those on the worksheet that goes with today, make sure that you really focus on getting those ones right. And if you get them wrong, ask me for help. All right, next we're going to talk about the quotient rule. Still trying to get used to writing on this thing. The quotient rule, that is when you divide two things, and in order to do your exponents with division problems, you subtract them. So for example, I have x to the 5th power divided by x to the 2nd power. Keep my base x, subtract my exponents. 5 minus 2 is 3. I'm not explaining the y on any of this because we spent so long on that. So if you're like totally confused about what I'm doing, go back in your notes. We did this whole thing where we expanded and all that good stuff. So hopefully that will help you guys. And you can always ask me too. Here's the next one. These problems with the bases being numbers are the ones that are going to come and show up this week more than anything. So make sure you understand that when you have a problem like this, you don't actually divide 3 divided by 3. You always keep your base and subtract your exponents. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then after that part, you could simplify that further and do 3 times 3 times 3. But that's not the point of this video. Let's do one that has one extra component, x squared y to the 5th divided by x y to the 3rd. Okay, on that problem, again, remember when I taught you guys, I taught you to figure out what your bases are going to be in your final answer, and then work on your exponents after that. So for my x, I've got a 2 minus the 1, which is just an exponent of 1, but we know that we don't have to write that. And then with the y's, we have 5 minus 3, which is, I almost wrote 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. So you could write that one like this. Okay, that's the quotient rule. Next one, I'm not sure if it's really going to show up a lot this week, but it's probably good just to refresh our memories anyways, is the 0 exponent rule. Oh my goodness. Talk about sloppy writing. Good luck reading that, you guys. 0 exponent rule. Hopefully you guys remember this one. Try to think of it before I even say. Anything to the 0 power is what? And hopefully you said 1. No matter what it is, if it's raised to the 0 power, it's 1. Remember, we liked those kinds of problems because when you get a problem like this, for example, it was really nice because that 0 exponent cancels everything else out and just gives you an answer of 1. So just keep that in mind in case it does show up later this week. Alrighty, next we have the power rule, and that's when you're raising an exponent to an exponent. So I'm going to do like a few examples with you guys. I know this is one that you will end up seeing this week, so I want to make sure that we get it. Let's say I have x to the 3rd power, and I'm raising that to the 2nd power. The power rule tells us to multiply our exponents. So 3 times 2 is 6. So it's an easy rule, you just have to remember it, that when you're raising an exponent to an exponent, you multiply those exponents. So 3 to the 2nd to the 4th power, you would take those two exponents, multiply them together, and that would give you 3 to the 8th power. Those are the basic kind. Now let's try an example that's a little bit more difficult because it'll have some distributing in it. Let's say I gave you 2a to the, all raised to the 3rd power. Just keep in mind that this exponent is being distributed to everything inside, even the coefficient. So many times people would forget that. So what this really means is 2 to the 3rd power and a to the 3rd power. And I could simplify that more and do 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8a to the 3rd power. So that's an option as well. So I want to practice a couple like that. Let's say I gave you 6x to the 3rd, and I'm squaring that all. Again, remember that exponent on the very outside gets distributed to everything on the inside. And then I would recommend writing this middle step, but I know that a lot of people like to skip steps, but it's so easy to make mistakes when you do that. So I've got 6 squared, and then what this means is x to the 3rd power to the 2nd power. And that's the part you probably would want to do in your head, knowing you guys. So 6 squared is 36. And then this part, I would just do that power rule and multiply 3 times 2, which gives me 6. So that would be my answer for that one. I'll do one more kind that has some dividing, or some quotient rule, I should say. Let's go to one that's like more challenging. And like I said, none of this is new information unless you were sleeping through class, which is very possible. Just kidding, I know none of you would ever do that because I am very entertaining. Okay, so let's say you have a problem like this, which I know there will be some on the worksheet tonight. This 3 exponent on the outside has to be distributed to everything. So I'm going to break it up like a lot instead of skipping any steps. First, I'll distribute it to the top, which would look like this. I have my 2x, and I'm raising it to the 3rd power. And then on the bottom, I have, hopefully I don't run out of room here, 3y squared, and I'm also raising that to the 3rd power. So now I have two problems that are very similar to the last one. This would be a good place to stop the video and try to see if you can figure out the next step, which would be to distribute that 3 to everything on the inside. So this becomes 2 to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd power, and then on the bottom, 3 to the 3rd power, and y to the, I've got 2 times 3, which is 6. And then after that, I would simplify the coefficients as much as possible. So 2 times 3, or sorry, not times 3, 2 to the 3rd power, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, x cubed on the top. And then on the bottom, we have 3 cubed, which is 3 times 3 times 3, which would give us 27y to the 6th. Those are the more intense problems that are probably going to be a little bit more of a struggle because it's been so long since we've done these, but reach in your brains because you guys have the info in there. Okay, the last one that we have to talk about is negative exponents. Those are the ones that everyone loved the most. Just kidding. Okay, negative exponents. Those are the ones that actually a lot of people struggled with because it's a hard rule to remember. So let's just review it. Not sure how much it's really going to show up this week, but it will definitely be on the worksheet that you're doing tonight for practice. So we got to talk about it. Let's just start with a really basic one single thing. I've got a base x with an exponent -3. Remember a few months ago I taught you guys the whole cross the line, change the sign thing? That's what we're going to do here. You know that there's a 1, an invisible 1 underneath this, and in order to turn this exponent that currently is negative positive, we have to move it to the bottom. When you flip over that fraction line, it changes to its opposite symbol. So this answer would be 1 over x to the 3rd power. Kind of weird. Let's try another one. I have 4 to the -2nd power. So again, we're going to cross the line, change the sign. I need to make that positive. So I need to move it to the bottom of this invisible fraction that's there, which would give me 1 over 4 squared, and I can simplify that further to be 1 over 16. Let's try one where the negative is on the bottom. Let's say I had 2 over x to the -3rd. I need to make that -3 a +3, so I'm going to pick it up, move it to the top. The 2 can stay right where it's at because it's already got a positive exponent, but now it has an x to the +3rd up with it. You can think of it as a 1 being on the bottom now since we moved that x, but you guys know that you don't have to write the 1 as a denominator. So there's problems like that. These get more difficult when they add components to it, so I'll do a few more. I thought this was going to be a short video, but I'm realizing how many types of problems there are, and it's been so long since we've done this. Let's see. Let's do one. Let's just jump into a really crazy one. Getting crazy up in here. Can you guys tell I'm going kind of nuts? I feel like I'm talking to myself. I am talking to myself. Okay, so in a problem like this, the first thing you would want to do is make sure that there's nothing that can be simplified, because negative exponents are always the very last thing you do. So all of my bases are different. I have an A, a B, a C, and a D. When I have different bases, I can't combine them together. So I'm just going to highlight, or in my case, circle, everything that needs to be fixed, because right now they are currently negative and I need them to be positive. To make them positive, we're just going to, if they're on the top, we're going to move them to the bottom, and if they're on the bottom, we're going to move them to the top. So on the top, I still have b cubed because it was already positive. We don't want to move it. But I also have c to the 4th and d to the 1st power. And then on the bottom, the only thing I have is a squared. So that would be the answer for that. Tricky, tricky. I'm going to do one more. And then when you guys do the work, you'll see you're going to get quite a variety of levels of difficulty. And when you get to the more tricky ones, it's just going to push you to think back to this unit because it's been such a long time since we've done anything like this. So here is the last one I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to have to hop down here for my steps. So the very first thing that I would want to do is take care of this product rule. These things are being multiplied together, so I'm going to multiply them together. Let me remind you how to do that. Coefficients, you actually multiply them. You do not add them together. So 3 times -2 is -6. Now I'm going to figure out what bases will be a part of my answer. I've got x, and I also have y. And then I just need to look at the exponents. So the x has a -2 and a 1. When I add those together, because it's the product rule, I get -1. Let me switch back to black. -1. And then for the y, I've got a 1 and I've got a -3. And when I add those together, I end up with -2. The last thing I would want to do, now that I've simplified it, is change these negative exponents to positive. So I would move them to the bottom of this invisible fraction, giving me a final answer. Sorry guys, this is getting really messy. Oh, here we go. I would have a -6 on the top still, but my x, which has an exponent of 1, and my y, which has an exponent of 2, they both moved to the bottom. So that would be my answer. Okay, I thought this was going to be a short video, and it ended up being the longest video I think I've ever made. That's how life goes. So this was your exponent review. You're going to have a practice worksheet that there's 38 problems on it. I mean, since this isn't one that's going to be graded, honestly, I say just do the ones that you think you would struggle with the most. Make sure that you know how to do all the easier ones, like 1 through 14 at least. I'll probably put like odds only and then evens if you want extra practice, but really it doesn't matter since I'm not grading this one. It's for you to practice. Make sure you feel strong with this, because tomorrow we're jumping into something new that has to do with exponents, and you're going to want to have that strong foundation with all your exponent laws, okay? Let me know if you need help as always, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!